In today's episode of Par 5 Friday, we're going to be going over the Wisconsin trip I just got back from and all the details that go along with that. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Knock Stiff Golf. I'm Kyle. I'm just a fellow golf addict that happens to live in Anchorage, Alaska. When I'm not out on the course playing golf, you're going to find me right here talking about it. So over the course of the last few videos that I've posted to YouTube, I went to Wisconsin on a golf trip with 7 other guys, and we had an absolute blast. Most of us are talking about this as being one of the best trips we've ever been on, and it's certainly going to be one that's going to be hard to top. So I thought I'd go over a Par 5 Friday version of the Wisconsin trip, starting off with number 1. The people. I've talked about this in an earlier video, is you really want to take into account who's going on the trip. Are they going to get along with other people that are coming? There's personalities that tend to clash, and you really want to just make sure everybody has a great time since everybody's spending some money to go on this trip. Needless to say, this was a super successful trip in that area. We had all the personalities you could possibly imagine. We had a blast together. There were literally people on the trip that none of us had met before. It was really nerve-wracking to get there and see what type of personalities they were actually going to have versus what you see on social media. A good example was pulling into Erin Hills. We pull into the entry gate and Keith, the Sweet Spot Golf, was already there, and none of us have actually met him before. And so the guy at the shack says, "Oh yeah, your guy already showed up," and we mentioned that we had never met him before, and he says, "Oh no, he kind of seemed like a creepy guy, so you might want to be careful. I think I saw a knife or a gun in the backseat of his car, so you guys just want to be careful." And so after we heard that, we're like, "Oh God, please be kidding." And of course, older guy thought he was really funny, giving us a hard time, and we got in there, met Keith, and he was a great addition to the trip. So, you take those chances of never meeting somebody before and going on a golf trip for 4 days. Sometimes it works out just fine, and other times it probably is a nightmare. I don't know. I haven't run into that just yet. So overall, the people on the trip were great. Everybody got along. Everybody's been keeping in touch since the trip has ended, sending each other photos, videos, reminiscing about everything that happened. So it's been just a great group, and we're already talking about the next trip. So next we're going to move on to number 2, the courses. The courses, we kind of already had a good idea in our mind of what they were going to be like, and we started off the trip with Erin Hills. And you can go back and click on one of the videos. It kind of gives you an overview of the whole getting to Wisconsin, going to Erin Hills and playing there. Erin Hills is one of those ones that kind of settled in a little later that we actually played a US Open course. We played it in some high winds. We had just started on the trip, so some of us were a little rusty. It's an awesome course. Its elevation changes and the hills and everything make it just a photography dream, but it didn't really sink in until a few days later that was a great course to play. You're trying to just survive a US Open style course where it obviously wasn't playing that hard with the green speeds and the fescue wasn't there. But, it was about 4 or 5 days later, I was like, man, that course was something special. And you go through the pictures and you see all those and you're like, now I get it. And so the next day we went and did 36 at Lawsonia, and I've done a little thing on this where Fried Eggs Golf and Eric Anders Lang went and played there. And it's a great link style course. We actually played the other course sets there called the Woodlands, and the only reason we played that was because somebody in the pub at Erin Hills said you have to play that. It's a great course, and we were just going to play the links twice the next day, but we ended up adding the Woodlands. We did the first 18 as kind of just a stroke play individual round, and so for the Woodlands we did a 4-on-4 scramble. Loser had to wear something embarrassing the next day, but it was a great track to go play. If you're going to go towards Lawsonia, play 36 there, play both courses, incredible value, and it was phenomenal. So then that brings us to Sand Valley. Sand Valley was kind of the pinnacle of the trip. We were staying there for 3 nights, I believe, and we stayed out at these Leopold cabins that were just phenomenal. You can click on some of the videos that I've done earlier that kind of showcase that. And so what you have there is you have Sand Valley, the course, you have Mammoth Dunes, and then you have the Sandbox. The Sandbox is a 17-hole par 3 course that was a blast. We probably played it 4 or 5 times in one day. It's just ridiculous amount of fun, short, gettable holes. Mammoth Dunes and Sand Valley, both heavily bunkered. We had a blast, and they just got ranked in the top 100. You can go check that out too, but certainly a place that's worth visiting especially if you're a fan of Bandon. So that brings us to the next part, which I just am going to call records. An exciting thing for me personally is a lot of you have watched my goals video and have seen that one of my major goals was to shoot par better this year. I had kind of a questionable shoot a 69 this year. What happened on Mammoth Dunes the second time we played it is I got off to a pretty good start. Well, let me take that back. I doubled the first hole, and I'll throw up the scorecard here too. So I doubled the first hole, and I told myself, you know what? I need to start changing my mind frame when I'm playing golf. Is just because you get a double doesn't mean that you're looking at a 74 at best. You are capable of birdies. You're capable of eagles. You can do anything you want for the next 17 holes and really change the outcome of where you're headed with starting with a double. So the next hole, I happened to birdie, knocked an approach shot to 5 feet or so, drained that, and it just felt like one of those days. And it's kind of funny because my buddy Caleb that was on the trip, he's played golf with me for well over probably, 14 years. And he said, I really think you're going to break par on this trip. And I was just like, yeah, thanks, Caleb, but I don't think so. And so anyways, I make the turn and I'm feeling really good about my game. I'm hitting it roughly where I want to and I'm making putts. And so then I go on this tear on the back nine and I almost have 3 birdies in a row. I have an eagle on a par 4 that's drivable. I knocked it to 5 feet-ish, and it's just straight downhill and it slopes right to left. And if you just take it out there and hit it far enough, it's going to trickle onto the green, and mine did, and to 5 feet. And of course, Colby had to knock his closer to like 3 feet, make eagle there. So basically the whole trip was Colby just outshining every little thing I did, but good for him. Good for him. Anyways, on to 16. I rim out a birdie there, go to 17 and make a really stupid bogey. And at this point, I am 3 under. I was 4 under before that bogey, and Mammoth Dunes is a par 73 course. So before that bogey, I was sitting at a roughly 69 if I was to par 18. I bogeyed it, so I'm 3 under. I go to the tee on 18. It's kind of a straightaway par 5. You're playing in wind, and there's bunkers everywhere. Tee shot's pretty wide open. I kind of hit a safety drive, and it was kind of weak and kind of flared off to the left. And I knew I was going to lay up. I just didn't know where, and I didn't want to end up in a bunker for my approach shot to the green because you have a heavily bunkered green on 18 that's kind of elevated, and it's massive too. So what I do is I take like a 6 iron, I lay up, and I thought it was going to go further than it did, and it came up short, and I ended up having about 172 into this green where the angle I was at was nothing but probably 40 bunkers in my way, elevated, pin kind of 10 yards on the green. And it was just one of those shots where you stand over it, and my buddy Caleb standing right next to me, and he of course doesn't say anything about the score. He knows where I'm at. All I can think about is forget the score and just put it on the green. Don't worry about anything else. It doesn't matter if you chunk this, skull it. And I was trying not to use those words in my head, but I just was trying to get this apathetic mode going where it doesn't matter what happens. Just step up, do your routine, and put a good strike on the ball and let it go where it goes. And so I stood over the ball, I flush it, and I hit the very front of the green, and it spins back just barely on the green and probably 5 yards from death. But got it on, 2-putted, and shot a 70. So it's not the 69 I was looking for, but it is a 3 under par. My best score ever. I was super excited about it. It just really made the trip for me because this year was the year I wanted to prove to myself that I could shoot under par. And guess what? Of course, Colby has to come in and shoot a 69 and beat me by 1. But, he's used to shooting under par, so it's not a big deal. But of course, he just had to one-up me. Anyway, so that was a big deal for me. I can kind of cross that off my checklist. I have that up on my goals on my mirror that say shoot a 69 this year or under par. And of course, I come home to my wife having written on my goal sheet, almost in like her supportive way. She said she meant it supportively, but it seemed pretty sarcastic to me. Regardless, I'll get the 69 out there one of these rounds that are coming up. It really changed my mindset when I'm playing golf now, knowing that I'm capable of doing that. So it's only a matter of time now. So that brings us to the next thing. Speaking of one-ups, we played the Sandbox, and of course we have Ace Cam. Now, ace cam is something that I've seen Eric Anders Lang do, and it's kind of carried over to other people. When you're playing par threes, they really watch for hole-in-ones, and there's a little Instagram filter on there. Well, wouldn't you know that Colby gets a hole-in-one. We were determined to stay out on this course until somebody did get a hole-in-one. So I think we played it twice or whatever, and then we get to the first hole again, and let me just show you the video.
Oh yeah, he didn't take his camera back on.
So as you can see, Colby's wearing his drone satchel on his chest.
Plus, it's not a man purse. It's called a satchel. Indiana Jones wears one.
He takes a swing, and we're watching it, and of course it goes in, and it's a hole-in-one. And it was one of those feelings where I've seen a hole-in-one before, but it was almost surreal because we were like, we're going to stay out here till we get a hole-in-one. And of course, it actually happened. And most of the time when you're trying to get a hole-in-one per se, it just doesn't happen. You can try all day. You've seen the pros try it 500 times and they don't get it. So it's just really lined up with how this trip was going. There was just so many coincidences and good things that happen on this trip. It's only fitting to have an ace, and it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. It was his first one, and he got a sweet shovel from Sand Valley, their gift for people that get the hole-in-one. So it was just a great way to cap off the trip right there. So for number 5, that brings us to what our next place is going to be. Is we kind of made some connections on the trip, and we talked about some potential next trips and what people suggested. And we've knocked off, most of us have knocked off Mammoth Dunes and now Sand Valley. They're all under the kind of umbrella of Dream Golf Resorts. And so the third place on that list of Dream Golf Resorts is Cabot Links. Now, Cabot Links is over in Nova Scotia, a completely opposite side of North America to me, so it will require some planning, but I can tell you if I've already been in touch with the GM. He wants to know what dates we're looking at coming and details, and so I'm trying to work that out. Life is changing constantly for all of us, so it's really just finding what dates are going to work and get that to be another bucket list trip that needs to happen ASAP. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this version of Par 5 Friday, kind of recapping the whole Wisconsin trip. It was absolutely amazing. As most of you have seen in some of the other videos I've been doing, Cutter and Buck outfitted our entire group with Cutter and Buck gear. They're doing a new thing where it's called the Cutter and Buck Bucket List Life. And they want to hear about people's bucket list trips that they're going on. It doesn't even have to be golf. It can be hiking, sports events, bachelorette parties, whatever it may be. If you're the winner, they're going to outfit your entire party with the newest and freshest Cutter and Buck gear. Head over to the social medias, let them know where you're going, why you're going, and who you're going with. They'd love to hear about it, and then they're going to pick one lucky winner. So could be you guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe if this is the kind of golf content you're enjoying. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything I can do better, if there's stuff you'd like me to cover. Whatever it may be, I'm always open to suggestions. And guys, as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.